What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So, as a Bernie supporter, there's always one question and one critique that I'm given. And the critique is that my candidate and my fellow supporters are tearing apart the Democratic Party. And then the question is always, well, will you vote for the Democratic nominee even if it's not Bernie Sanders? And as many times as we say we will, as many times as Bernie says he'll support the nominee, it never satisfies them, and they continue to say this tired old rhetoric. Well, we kind of found out that this is projection because the New York Times released a piece today where they interviewed 93 superdelegates, and all but 9 of them said that no matter the votes that Bernie gets, they won't vote for him. If this primary leads to a contested convention and it makes it to the second ballot, they will not vote for Bernie Sanders. Um, Many of them saying that he's detrimental to essentially the establishment. They didn't say it in that many words, I'm paraphrasing, but their fear of what he's going to do. This kind of, I don't know, dark path that the Democratic Party has gone down, and one that maybe we just didn't have enough light on, I think is going to repel more Democrats than anything else. Because it's not like Bernie supporters are the only ones reading this and saying this is disgusting. No, if you actually read into the article further, one of the questions that's asked by every superdelegate, will you still vote against Bernie Sanders even if this hurts the party? And again, those all but 9 said yes. So what does that say? In fact, one, Stephen Cohen from Tennessee, he says the Trump presidency has been a horror story. Well, we might as well just make it a novel. So you're telling me the worst president ever, this man who is just detrimental to our state of being as an American citizen, is better than Bernie Sanders? That's what you're saying. But that's not really what they're saying. What they're saying is look, I get a lot of money from pharmaceutical companies. I get a lot of money from the military complex. I get a lot of money from super PACs. And all of this money is going to go away or potentially go away if Bernie Sanders wins. And my money is worth way more than any of that. The for Stephen Cohen or the other super delegates to keep their vested interests is more important than your grandma having health insurance. It's more important than a child with cancer getting the medicine that they should. And that's what they should say, by the way. Because that's exactly what this is. They talk about, well, they fear down ballot votes. Do they? Because if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest splash that happened in 2018 was one created by one AOC, a progressive. Okay? Is that maybe the biggest gun? And you're saying, okay, well, that's just one. Rashida Tlaib, uh, Ilhan Omar. I can keep going. Progressives did damage in 2018. And yes, the entire party did well. But it was behind a progressive movement. And it was the progressive party that got out. And that's what they were missing in 2016. The progressive party stayed at home. As well as a lot of Obama supporters, by the way. But this is just another example of the ruling class telling us who should be our president, who should be in charge. And any opportunity that they see that they might lose that grip on power, they will stop it, even at the cost of their own party. Because at the end of the day, the name of the game is money. Nobody cares about anything else. And many of these people probably won't even stay in power if Bernie Sanders loses. Seriously, if Bernie Sanders is the leader, has the majority of the votes going in to a contested convention in July, and somebody who had less votes ends up winning, I can guarantee you the party turnout in November is going to be amazingly low. And it's not even just me. There's many people who've said the same thing. Many political scientists who've said the same thing. But take that further back. In a decade, they'll still be feeling the effects. Why? Because nobody is going to trust the democracy. Because the Democratic Party would have proven democracy doesn't exist. I think that all of that is really, really interesting when we're talking about Bernie Sanders and we're talking about the Democratic Party. It seems to me that anyone who threatens their idea of mudding interests is dragged through the mud. And they have these attacks prepared. For instance, Elizabeth Warren was asked about the superdelegates. And right on cue, she said, well, this is what Bernie Sanders wanted. He was part of the team that wrote this up. And I say on cue because there's been about 9 other people in cable media who've said the exact same thing. But it's a falsehood. It's lies. Why? Because when Bernie Sanders' team, not Bernie, were in debates about these rules, they wanted there to be no superdelegates. This was part of the DNC, still implanting themselves in a position to take away from the American people. And it all goes back down to the fact that when we had all of those candidates standing there was only one candidate who said the people should choose who's going to be the next president. And even though the ruling class and the Democratic establishment believes that we're too stupid to follow along, and we don't care, we don't even understand what they're saying, because they keep us dumb and fat and hooked on our iPhones. A lot of us understand exactly what they were saying. And moving forward, the Democrat Party is going to get a lot thinner. Yes, I could still see that if Bernie wins overwhelmingly, many of us will learn to continue to bear the D, so to speak. But there's going to be a whole lot of us who are going to be completely disenfranchised. And the moment that there is no Bernie, that there is no AOC, that there is no person who's actually talking about the American people, we won't support the Democratic Party. Now, this only leads me to one theory, and that is in a decade or so, there will be a third party, and it will be bigger than the Democrat or the Republican Party. Because the Republican Party is going through this exact same thing. They're sick of Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Dennis Kucinich, who might as well be a Democrat, by the way. They want Donald Trump because he speaks for them. The base that he incites is a base of change. They're not happy with the way things were going under Obama, and they weren't happy under Bush. They needed something different. Once there's no Trump, that push, that red hat you see everywhere, it's going to be pretty much gone. That Tea Party is with Trump. And when he leaves, so do they. Just like with Bernie. When there's no Bernie Sanders, there's no progressives, we're gone too. And that's where I see there to be a third party, an independent party that is going to be massive in this country in the next decade or so. We have a lot of room to figure out who's going to lead it, what our values and standards are going to be. I think we're all going to have to work together in a way, and I don't know if there's room for some of us, but it's going to be interesting moving forward. Anyway, I'm really curious what you guys think about this whole story. This New York Times thing is, it made my blood boil while I was reading it. I couldn't believe that I mean, this is something you would think Project Veritas or something, somebody would have had to record these people unknowingly. They're outright saying, no, whoever the people vote for, we don't care. If we get our chance to make the call, we will. And they kept saying the person who we think is going to beat Donald Trump. Okay. Now that might be fair if you're talking about Biden. And if it's close, okay, I could kind of see moving for that. But Bernie Sanders beats Trump 47 out of 50 times. I mean, why? How is that bad? How is that not the guy that can beat Trump? Because if you're saying, yeah, well, that seems, well, there's that 3 times he doesn't. With Pete Buttigieg, it's 38 out of 50 times. Amy Klobuchar is 21. Even Joe Biden is 48 out of 50. Mike Bloomberg is dropping so fast, who knows? The last report I saw was 26, 27. Bernie and Biden are both right up there. And if it's close, I get it. I do understand that. But these people were admittedly saying, no matter what, we're not voting for Bernie. I can't. This Democratic Party has changed into something I don't recognize at all. And maybe it's been there all along and I just wasn't looking right. It's been an interesting election and primary season. But again, I'm curious what you guys have to think. Um, anyway, thank you for staying to the end. You guys have a good one.